I want to talk to you about how listening to your body can actually help your relationships. And the reason I'm jumping on this topic right now is because I just went for an amazing run by the ocean, and it was what my body was telling me. Now, a lot of the time we think our relationships just have to do with our emotions. And this is something that I was talking to a colleague of mine today, where in my program, the GAUNTLET, or in the work that I do with therapy, a lot of the time people are very, very emotional. And a lot of the times they've been branded as too much by like their partners, or people have said like, oh my God, you're always crying, or you're always anxious and you're always afraid. Now, these are not conditions which are just a chemical imbalance in the brain. Now, no doubt there is a chemical imbalance that's created, but the reason it's created is because of a very strong dysregulated nervous system. Now, what takes a dysregulated nervous system? So think about in a relationship, right, where you explode when you're with a partner, or if you're like, you take something very personally, like you internalize somebody else's like actions, emotions, when somebody else shows up or doesn't show up for you. Now, a lot of the time that you may think is because of like, oh, it's just because I'm sensitive. Now, the reason being, and this is a lot for a lot of you empaths who are out there, being an empath is beautiful, being empathetic is beautiful, but if it comes at a massive cost of your own energy, and it comes at a massive cost of your own peace of mind and your emotions, then that's something you need to pay attention to and look into. And the reason that we absorb all of this energy from other people, the reason that we get into this place of massive dysregulation, or this massive place of like being over emotional, is because our nervous systems are so jacked up. Trauma is one of the biggest things that can dysregulate your nervous system, and it can happen even when you're in the womb. Not only when you're born, and not only when like you are a little child and you're conditioned, but it can happen even when you're in your womb, in your mother's womb. If your parent is under stress, if your mom is under stress and she's carrying you, the caregiver is under stress, then what happens is the baby's nervous system inside starts to get the stress hormones that are secreted through the mother's body. And so that's how we're actually inheriting trauma. So when you hear about this generational trauma, it's no joke. That is something that you can physically absorb through the stress of a parent. Now, what happens is when this baby is born already with a jacked nervous system. This was me, by the way. So I'm letting you guys know why listening to your body is so important for your relationships as well. It's not just your partner doesn't need to make you feel safe. You need to make yourself feel safe. So now when this baby's born, it's not born with a flag on its head that says, hey, I have a dysregulated nervous system, mom or dad, make sure you pay extra attention to me or take care of it or help me through my healing. They have no idea, right? Like when the child is born, the parent has no idea as to like what the nervous system of the child is like. They just think, oh, this child is really quiet, this child cries a lot, this child like gets in the space where they're demanding things, throwing tantrums. Those are survival programs. We're not going to dive into it. But the point is that if you have a dysregulated nervous system, you are probably more prone to emotional reaction. Now, this emotional reaction can be crying heavily. This can be getting really angry. This can be getting really anxious. One of the biggest ones that I've noticed in North America, predominantly an individualistic culture. I'm not going to go into cultural conditioning, but in a place where having an emotion or discussing an emotion or understanding the emotion is not safe, what happens is you either shut down the emotion until it explodes, or you need to bring out the emotion so you think you can be heard. So why am I talking about this topic of listening to your body? Because if you find that in your own relationships with your partners, you are someone who feels like you're not heard very often, someone labels you as being too much, someone says you get angry a lot, someone says you cry all the time, or even if you find that you're anxious all the time and you're on medication. I had a couple of my students, I've actually had so many students come through the program who've actually gone off of medication because they have learned the art of being able to control and regulate their own nervous system. When you regulate your nervous system, you're now almost reversing the trauma that happened to you when you were a child or when you were in your parents' womb, because you're teaching your nervous system not to just absorb and be erratic. You're teaching it to be calm. You're teaching it to regulate yourself. Now, there's no doubt that medication can do that. But medication is basically a chemical substance that you're ingesting into your body to make a temporary alteration. So as I have nothing against big pharma and like the medical industry, but they know that this is a system that can get you hooked, which is why you have to continue this process. As with caffeine, the more you take it, the more you build a tolerance to it, because your brain is neuroplastic. It's always adapting. So if you continue to take it, you will now get hooked on it. Now, this affects your moods. This can affect you like in your sex life. This can affect in so many other places. So you got to bring it back and rope yourself back in to say, okay, what is it that I can do for myself that can help regulate my nervous system so that I can show up much better for myself and therefore for my relationships. Your relationships with your partners, relationships with your kids, relationships with your friends. If you have a more balanced nervous system, you get triggered so much less. Think of the concept of what the word trigger means, right? To get triggered is I'm getting agitated by something. If you are getting triggered by something, that means your nervous system is already so sensitive to that particular stimulus, or in general. If you're someone who finds that you wake up and you're feeling very anxious in the morning, that shows you, that's a good sign for you. Not that you need to run to a doctor and get a medication, but you need to ask yourself, what can I do to regulate my system, my nervous system early in the morning? Now, there's various things that can regulate your nervous system. Things like dopamine can make you feel really good and give you like a short-term high, which is why, unfortunately, a lot of people get on the other cycle, on the other end of the circuit of drugs or chemical substances, which give you that feeling of that rush of dopamine, and then again, get addicted to it. So you have to ask yourself, what can produce these levels of serotonin, dopamine, all the endorphins within my body within a normal, regularized manner so that I'm not pulled up and down all over the place. And my biggest suggestion to you is something I need to use. I have a meditation routine of 1 hour and 20 minutes every morning, which includes stretches, which includes like breath work, which includes deep meditation. So I get into like a theta brainwave state. This is not so I can be Buddha, also I can sit on top of a mountain, also I can sit and preach. It's just to make sure that my agitated nervous system, which I inherited, I can be able to control it and manage it. Now, the good side of this is that if you have had a dysregulated nervous system, and you are able to manage it and you are able to regulate it, you are capable of so much more. Think about a rubber band, right? So if your nervous system is like a rubber band, and if this rubber band can stretch because, oh my God, it's been through a lot, it's been pulled from this end to this end, if you're able to harness the power of the rubber band, you can now use this rubber band to stretch wherever and however you need to. You can stretch it however you need to in your relationships. So that means you have the capability to be able to witness and hold space for somebody else's pain. Bring it back to how listening to your body helps relationships. The reason why I can do this job and I'm good at doing this job and listening to people's stories is because I stretched my nervous system so far with my own regulation, with my own commitment every day, with my own exercise. I just came back from a run because I knew I was feeling a little heightened. I was getting a little agitated. I could tell my nervous system was like peaking. So I went out and went for a run. Testosterone in men is another thing that can get you to feel very agitated or get you to feel very aggressive. And so if you go and you get a good exercise out, it helps you secrete the right endorphins after your exercise that calm you down, make you feel more relaxed, help you to listen to your body more. So if you just have, if you wake up and you have morning anxiety, this is why a lot of people like to go for a run in the morning. Caffeine is not good for a dysregulated nervous system. The problem is, again, because of the conditioning in our environment of consumerism as to like how caffeine is so helpful, it helps me stay alert, etc., etc., etc. The problem is now you again are increasing your caffeine dependency and your caffeine quotient. So instead, what you need to do is you need to reel it back. You need to reel it back into yourself to say, okay, I was just talking to a friend today who said that when she runs out of coffee, her day is ruined in that morning because she wakes up and she feels so agitated, she feels like sleepy, she feels so like bummed out. So instead, what you need to do is have a healthy practice which you can depend on for yourself for. Breath work is amazing. Wake up in the morning. This is my routine for myself. Wake up in the morning, have a hot cup of water. I have a hot cup of water. You can put some lime in it. It helps your metabolism. Hot water first thing in the morning is something from India. It's in China. You go to any of those places in the East, in Japan, that's the first thing they do in the morning. Why? It's because hot water first thing in the morning stimulates your metabolism. It allows your body to wake up naturally. So have hot water and lime or lemon first thing in the morning. You don't even have to do the lemon if you don't want to. It also improves your pH of your blood when you put lemon in the hot water. I study neuroscience and I'm like a science geek, so I love studying these things and how they affect your body. Next thing, you don't have to do 1 hour and 20 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. I did with one of my students in the GAUNTLET. She was recognizing how it was so difficult for her to be able to break through into her subconscious to find out like trauma and to be able to access those memories from her childhood because her ego kept jumping in the way and immediately she'd start crying or get really angry. And she couldn't explain it. And other people couldn't understand it as well. And she just thought, I just can't do it. How many of us have thought, I just can't do inner work. I just can't be able to concentrate. People with ADD, ADHD, that was me. Everybody tells us it's all that, oh my God, you just have the disorder. Okay, where the fuck does it come from and what the fuck do I do? You can't be telling me that the only solution I can have is to take Adderall or some other like medication which didn't exist. And in fact, in the East or countries like third world countries actually don't have access to it. So how do they manage to be able to create productivity? That's all the stuff that we don't learn through consumerism or through like big pharma and the big medical industries. No like qualms to any of them, because that's not going to create a healthy business, right? If you can depend on yourself, why the fuck are you going to want to come to me? That's exactly the point. So what happens in that space is that they're telling you that for you to be able to find some solution for your body, you have to go to what's being offered over there. But I'm telling you, all the answers are within you, but you have to be able to access them. If you like this video, click below to like, to share, to subscribe, to do all of those things, and follow this page, because we have so many more videos with this kind of magic, so to speak, inner work magic coming out. But make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. And more importantly, if you found value in this, share this with all your friends. Much love to you.